Hey now, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Red Alert Diaries Live with Tanya E. Hood. And today, doing something just a little bit different. I am joining you live in a couple of different places. For those of you that are just getting a chance to see me on LinkedIn, this is my first opportunity sharing there. And I'm trying to make certain that I see you guys in a couple of different places as well. So bear with me because we're streaming in a few moments. So I wanted to make certain that I can see you and that we get the opportunity to have a conversation together. So if you want to join me live, feel free to go into the link, send me a message inside the chat so that we can have a conversation. But I'm also hoping that you saw this morning's episode, because if you saw this morning's episode on Red Alert Diaries, you understand that we're having a conversation about how to achieve some of the goals that we have set before us in the new year. We often think about doing some brand new things. Our mind goes into all the possibilities, and it should. But I want you to know that there are moments as we're walking through trying to get ourselves together, both personally and professionally. We have clutter in our worlds, clutter inside of our physical spaces, clutter inside of our emotional places as well. So, today I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can alleviate some of that chaos. Listen to this morning's episode. I give you a couple of strategies there that I had to follow because as we close out the end of the year and begin in the new year as business owners and those in the workforce, your mind sort of shifts in different directions. And so you have to put yourself in a position to clean up and clear out. Well, that's what I did along the way. And I shared some of the things I had to do that I structured myself to be able to do that effectively. And so let me take a quick moment, use your chat. I'm going to see if I can put in here, hi, so that you guys see me there as well and respond along the way. And if I can see you in this part as well, we'll be able to have an extended conversation. So, how can you clean out the physical clutter? And how does that actually help you with your mental state? A lot of us don't think about that. But when we clean out our physical environments, it's often a way of cleaning out what's happening to us internally. Some of us do so well in showing up in different arenas that we put on a great element. I've often heard that how you show up in one place is how you will show up in other places. And that's not always the case. But your emotional state is the one thing that is a clear clue that something may be wrong, that you may need to make some other adjustments because your emotional state has a tendency to mirror what's happening in your environment. For those individuals that have been like I have typically been most of my life, I call us developers. A developer is a person whose natural, logical, analytical mind gives you the ability to see multiple things at one time. For those individuals, we have two states of beings that show up on us externally. The first state for a lot of us is because we're looking at so many different data points here, there, and everywhere. We have a space that looks like here, there, and everywhere. So if you're the type of person who has clutter and sort of what I call organized chaos, people that are around you were wondering, well, how are you able to do this? Well, your creative mind has a tendency to see things in multiple arenas. So even though that one pile in one area of your space may not mean much to one person, but to you, there are elements in there, deep dive inside of your mind that you can go back into and support you. But it can also get to a place, if it's too much for too long, where it becomes overwhelming. Because developers like us, our minds often want to touch all the various things. If we keep spiraling down, we end up into tertiary thoughts that no longer support us. That is when your environment has reached a place where it's no longer productive. That is when the stress and the overwhelm starts to overtake you. So in this morning's episode, I gave you a framework. A lot of you that are in business already heard about it. It's the SMART framework, using SMART as an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, got to get myself together with this, realistic and time bound. If you're using that as your framework, it gives you the ability to be able to start segmenting things that can support you. Now, hopefully you listened to this morning's episode, but if you didn't, I shared that in my desk I have 3 separate piles. I keep 3 piles because the developer in me wants to make certain I can touch the various things, but I also need to know quickly because as a project manager by day, I have multiple elements that I'm working on. If you're working on more than one task like I do, you find yourself having to set aside one project while you start working on another, and then somebody will come in and ask you for an update on a project that you worked on 2 or 3 weeks ago. And you, being the exceptional person that you are, because for a lot of us, the action oriented people, because that's a part of your soul, we want to be able to quickly access what we need when we need it. That shows your capability. That shows your excellence. But you can't let too much stuff get into the clutter space. So I have 3 piles. A pile where things that have basically closed out, I just got to tie up a few loose ends. A second pile where I have, where I have active work, but I'm not working on it in that moment at that time. I may have to get back to it maybe later in the day or later in the week. But in this moment right now, and I'm not working on it. And that's that third pile, the things that I'm actively working on. If you set up a system of three gives you a way to simplify what you're doing, those 3 stages, those 3 points, those 3 elements. The next thing I like to share with you is how do you do this to shed the emotional clutter? Well, if you're setting it up in a physical arena like that, you can also do this personally. The SMART framework works in both arenas because shedding the emotional clutter also lets you eliminate the past elements. Some things in our world we will have to take a moment and pause, try to collect our thoughts on. And if you do that, it'll give you the chance to slow down enough to examine what's happening to you. Start with the 3 states of time: past, present, and future. In those thoughts, you have what do I have to deal with right now, right here, today? If you find yourself in that position and you have to deal with those things in this moment, then you'll know what you'll have to start focusing on immediately. That will give you the specifics. Next, measure out what it is. How much can you actually do in a day? Now, for the developers, we love our list. Make a list of the things that you need to do. When you create that list, it gives you a clear perspective of what it is you're working on. That way, it's not stuck in your mind. Hey, everyone, thanks so much for being here. That way, it's not thing that's stuck in your mind, because if you don't have to keep it stuck inside of your mind, then you'll get the opportunity to be able to filter it. That way, you can segment it to make it measurable. And at that point, you can start taking some action. When you take the action, pick 3 things off of your list to take your action on. When you do that, it gives you a clear victory point because we don't often celebrate ourselves. In life, we're rushing through, we're doing all the various things, and we don't make certain that we give ourselves small victories. In the hustle and bustle of life, you have to create your own party because life will create its own chaos for you. So create those victory moments by making what's measurable, achievable, that action, and then celebrate that moment. Here's the next part. When it's realistic, narrowing it down to 3, maybe you are kind of like I am. Some days are better than others, where you have a moment where you don't have to rush so much. Those days, you may be able to get through all 3. But if you have a day where you have a whole lot of things that are coming at you at one time, at that moment, you're going to have to slow some things down. And maybe you'll have to make one thing achievable. That one thing, if you get that one thing done today, that is victory. Give yourself moments of victory, because it's in those moments of victory that you can give your heart the opportunity to heal, especially if you have to pull some things from your past that you need to resolve. Giving your chance to get that resolution will also help you get better connected personally and professionally to what's happening in your world. Now, here's something else I want to share with you. Because what I try to do when I go live is give you the opportunity to have some quick touch points. you would like to join me on the journey, feel free to click in numerous places. So we're streaming in a couple of different places. In each of those areas, you get the opportunity to click in the comment section and I can see you. You can join me live here and we can extend the discussion. Otherwise, I will redirect you back to this morning's episode because Red Alert Diaries airs every Tuesday to give you quick touch points in your life that you can apply, that can give you the opportunity to get healed, to get whole, so that you can move into a better direction. And so, the next thing I want to share is extend yourself some grace. Too many of us are working on moving through the fast pace because life tells you that you have to move at a pace that is too fast, the hustle and bustle of it all. But I have learned that if we move at the pace of grace, we don't have to keep fighting that journey. And it is in those moments of giving yourself a little bit of grace that grace is a crucial process. One, it'll give you clarity that you don't have to do it all right here, right now, today. Because a lot of us are putting a fast forward mode because we think we've got to do it all right here, right now, today. Give yourself some grace. And when you give yourself some grace, it'll also give you the opportunity to open up and say you need some help. For those of us that are heart-centered souls, we are there to help everybody around us. And we often forget that we need to say help. I can use someone to help me, like you always step in to help everybody else. Take this moment and extend yourself some grace by asking for some support. Asking for help doesn't mean that you're weak. It means that you have a strength inside of you that knows that you can rely on someone else to give you some elements of support in that journey. And when you do this, segment the pieces that you know that somebody can use. Now, writing that list, that first thing I shared, writing out that list lets you know the things that you have to get done. But when you also write on that list, start segmenting it to see who can help you with what. When they get the opportunity to see how they can support you, yes, when they get the opportunity to see how they can support you, that will give you the opportunity to see which part of the list they can complete and what part of the list only you can do. That way, you'll know if you ask somebody for help, there's a task that you already are clear that they can get done without you. And you can focus your attention on those things that really need your attention. So grace will empower you to move forward so that you can start living things a little more abundantly, having a little more peace, giving yourself a little more grace. Now, how do you start with all of the things that we have discussed using the SMART framework when you feel overwhelmed, small? That specific element that we started off at the beginning with the framework, do something small. If it's one task, let it be that one task. And if you're anything like I was in the aftermath of my divorce, it will have to be that one moment. What can you think of in the one moment that you're functioning in? Because if you function in that one moment, it will help you draw on a thought to give you some insight about what the next step could be because you're not that overwhelmed. All you have to do is take one step forward. The path is already laid out. It's taking the one step at a time that always gets you to the end. And so for today, if anything that I've shared resonate with you, then it's time to reset. So I want you to like, comment, and share this with others. And join me because we are joining in a couple of different places live. And for those of you that are joining me for the first time on LinkedIn, I say welcome to the journey. And I'm glad that we get the opportunity to join with one another. And if you're interested in joining me live in the midst of the stream, send me a voicemail, a message, click hi, and we can quickly get you on board so that we can extend the conversation a little bit further. But if you want to just take an opportunity to just look over some of the things that have been shared already, go back and listen to this morning's episode. Red Alert Diaries, episode 24, shares the extended elements about the framework. And in this framework, using SMART as an acronym that a lot of people in business use, and I'm so glad that I learned about it. It will help you be specific so that you can measure what you need to achieve the goal that's in front of you so that it's realistic. And when you put a time period on it, even if that time period is 1 moment, because a minute is way too long, you'll be okay in the process. So thank you, Glenda. Glad that you are here as well. Now, in this small moments of time, as we walk through wrapping that up, give yourself the grace and space. Join me on the journey. You can go to tanyaehood.com and click on the Work With Me tab if there's other things that you would like to talk about that extends beyond today's conversation. And with that, I say thank you for letting me join you for this moment. And welcome, LinkedIn, joining us on a journey as we're sharing this in several other places. Appreciate you being here and looking forward to seeing you next time. Thank you. Appreciate that as well. And in the meantime, this is Tanya E. Hood, walking in my purpose. And I want you to do the same.